How you doing? Thanks for joining us again. Remember, leadership is hard, but most of the time we make it harder than it needs to be. Here's one of the ways we do that. Do you ever look at someone and think, how did you not see that? It's right there. It's right there. How did you not see that? Not like, how did you look in a refrigerator and not see the eggs? I don't mean that, but something significant, something substantial. How did you not see that? You kind of scratch your head. You kind of turn your head sideways and think, what is your deal? Maybe you even say that out loud. Maybe it's just your inner narrator that says it. But eventually, you and I are going to encounter folks with whom we work that just don't see stuff that's really, really important. And they just kind of live within it, and it influences their life dramatically, but they don't even see it. They don't pick up on it. Well, this is about that. This idea, which I'm going to call the 3 mindsets, brain number 1, brain number 2, and brain number 3, this idea might help you a little bit with this. A little spoiler, if you're not going to hang out to the end, you need to be the 3rd mindset. That's where we want to go. You don't want to be mindset 1, mindset 2. You want to be mindset number 3. So what's up with these 3 mindsets? The idea is that we have 3 different ways of thinking, 3 ways that our brain works when it comes to what I like to call defaults. Now, defaults are the answer to the question, how did we set this up? How did we structure this? What kind of rules do we have around it? What kind of policies or procedures or traditions, even habits, even laws? We set things up and we put structure around it, and then that structure becomes the default. That's always where I put my boots. I park my car on that side of the garage. I unlock the front door this way. I structure my day so it starts with this and ends with that. And then within an organization, we always use Post-it notes. We never use Post-it notes. We always buy on Amazon. We always have our groceries delivered, or we never do those things. These are what are called defaults. Defaults are simply the way things are set up. And they're set up that way back in the day to solve a problem. Most of these defaults are set up to solve a very specific problem. Most of these rules, policies, procedures, habits, traditions, structure are set up to solve a very specific problem. And then they do, but then they may create other kinds of problems. But we want to pay close attention to what these things are, these defaults. It's just the way it is, okay? Fun story. We were working with a large healthcare consortium that was changing some of its physical locations. It was pulling in some of its tentacles and closing out some of the physical locations in a region and pulling a lot of the functions into a big, central, beautiful facility. In that big, centralized facility, they had a large training and conference room, beautifully done, wonderfully appointed. And it came time for the grand opening of that. And at that point in time, there was going to be a big meeting of many of the senior staff and a lot of the middle staff that were coming in. And a whole bunch of people were coming in for this big conference meeting. And I was going to be a part of that and introducing not only some of the physical changes that were taking place, like you don't park there, now you park there. You don't go through that door, now you go through that door. You don't use the key, you use a key card. Stuff like that. A whole bunch of changes were taking place in things like I mentioned, as well as in large procedures and processes for that healthcare consortium. And this was the day, the big launch. It was actually a party. It was kind of fun feeling. I got there early with a couple of my team members to try to help set up for the event. And there was a large kind of ice cream cone, you know, those garbage cans that are usually polished aluminum. They stand about that tall. The top looks like an ice cream cone. Very nice, heavy. There was one of those sitting in there right inside of the door. And now I walked in and I pulled the garbage can out so that it was about 3.5, 4 feet inside of the main doors that people would open to walk into that room. So as the doors opened and folks would walk in, there it was right in front of them. And just sitting there like someone put it there on purpose, because I did put it there on purpose. And then I observed, and people walked in and walked around it and walked around it. And a couple people, as I observed, would say, it's odd for that to be there. But because it was a new building and everything was new, no one thought, this is a dumb place for this, let's move it over here. They just worked around it. We went on through the entire day, actually. It's an 8 or 9 hour day, and lots of breaks, people coming in and out. No one moved it. People started to even use it. They'd throw their old coffee cups inside of it, sitting right there. And it was clearly the wrong place to be. I put it there on purpose to make it the wrong place to be. No one touched it. No one moved it. The second day, we came back. Now it was time to get more granular, to do some training about some things that were going to be changing. We were there. A bunch of other folks were there. The janitorial staff had come in the night before, cleaned up the room, and left the can there. They even took the top off, took the garbage can or the garbage bag out, and replaced it with a new bag and left it right there. I asked the crowd an hour and a half, 2 hours into this meeting, did you notice anything odd about this room? Did you notice anything going on in this room that shouldn't be this way? People were all looking around. No one noticed a thing. No one said. I said, what about that side of the room? No one noticed it. When I pointed out the garbage can, what is that doing there? People just were surprised. It's like, I never even noticed that, never even saw it. Some people thought, well, somebody put that there on purpose. It's probably the best place for it to be, that kind of thing. And other people sat back and thought, okay, this is odd. I will talk about this later. I'm going to address that because it seems like an odd place to be, but not now. I'll talk about it later. There, those are the three mindsets. I just illustrated them in that straightforward story. The three mindsets around default are this. Brain number one, mindset number one, there are a bunch of people who simply do not see the defaults in their life. They don't even see them. They function within them. They stand in the line. They never notice how long the line is or who's in it or how fast it's moving. They fill out the form and never think about it. They walk by the garbage can in a conference room and never even see it. It simply doesn't register to them. Those are the folks to whom all defaults are basically invisible. And the only way they know how to function is by following other people. Mindset number one. Mindset number two, brain number two. Pay attention to this one. These folks see the defaults. They see the way things are set up, but they assume someone with authority, wisdom, good planning, put it there on purpose. It must be a good purpose. Oh, well, that must be there for a reason. That must be some newfangled thing. They remember it. They see it. They use it. They move around it, and they never question it. There's a subset of this mindset. Ooh, watch out for these people. It's a subset of that second mindset. These people are what Phil Knight, who is the founder of Nike, called BureauCrakens. I hope that conjures a picture up for you of a person who's a bureaucrat, but they are like a sea monster in it. These people feel like they see the defaults and everyone must follow those defaults. If that's the rule, you must follow that rule. Don't even think about it, follow the rule. And they take it on themselves as their life mission to make sure you follow every one of those rules, just like that. We just returned, Donnie and I, from a city which we will not name because you might recognize it. It's a 4-hour flight from the Seattle area. So draw a circle. It's one of those cities within 4 hours. Our flight back, we had a flight attendant who was one of these people. And she was clearly a rule enforcer. Now, we had the privilege of sitting in first class, and so there are some benefits of sitting in first class. I mean, really, when you look at the difference in price, and you have 1 or 2 bourbons on your way up, that bourbon costs $300, and it's Jack Daniels maybe, or it's Woodford Reserve. But anyway, so dollar cost averaging doesn't work very well there. But none of those benefits were available to us sitting up there in first class because she was so much of a bureaucrat. And every rule had to be followed. And depending on when you watch this video, you'll know there are certain rules out there that are starting to loosen up a little bit. Not her. So that second mindset is a kind of person who is on a mission to make sure everyone follows the rules. And they're difficult to be around. Here's the third brain, the third mindset. And like I told you, this is the mindset that you need to have. This is the mindset that every leader who's what I call a transformational leader, people who create a new future that would not have happened if they didn't do this work and get me to follow them, Transformational leaders have this third mindset. They see the defaults. Oh, they see them all. But they see the defaults and the rules that go with them as tools. They see some of them as long-lasting, and they see some of them as short in their life. So it'll be this rule for now, but we'll change it later. Or some of them are solid underlying principles that last for generations and generations, but they see them all. But they know that most of them are made by society, most of them are made to solve a problem, and that most of them, in time, will change. Most of the defaults are flexible. They know that some defaults are very difficult to change, but it might be worth it. Some defaults are very easy to change and might not even be necessary, but they see rules as tools. They see defaults as a way that we have structured our society, our business, our relationships for now. Now, of course, I'm not talking about the underlying timeless principles of how you and I interact. I'm not talking about morality. I'm not talking about ethic. I'm talking about those rules that we set up to help us get along in the world. That third mindset is the kind of person who sees all of these around and knows that they are flexible, that they can change based upon whatever kind of problems we're trying to solve. Now, I'm not saying these are anarchists running around tipping over garbage cans and flipping over potted plants for the pure joy of it. Not at all. This third mindset is a kind of person that understands that, of course, we need structure. Of course, we need policies, procedures, habits. We need to set things up, and then we need to, but they were set up to solve a problem. Are they now creating more problems than they were solving? There are wonderful stories about that throughout history, where defaults were put in place in really powerful ways about how people live and think. And then as time went on, these transformational leaders stood up and said, this is not the way it's supposed to be. Let's change it, with great fanfare or great conflict and great resistance. That's what that third mindset is. Transformational leaders all see the defaults, and they know that they can actually be changed. But how can you then use this? How can you use this to your advantage? How can you become more effective as a leader, a manager, a supervisor, or an influencer of people? You want to have that third mindset. By the way, these are not born into us. This is not hardwired. You this or that or the other. No, we learn these. So you can learn this third mindset if you do not already have it. So how do we use it? How do we learn it? What do we do with it? Here's 4 ideas. 1, get curious. Become an avid observer of defaults. Just notice them everywhere and ask yourself, I wonder why that's there. It's not easy in some cases to find out why a rule is in place, or a law is in place, or a tradition is in place. But just start noticing them. We always do this, or this is the way it's supposed to be. And get curious. Why is that there? How long has that been there? And understand that the longer that default has been put in place, the harder it will be to find out the root cause of that, or the problem that default was trying to solve. Okay, step 1, get curious. Become an avid observer of defaults. Here's step 2. Notice conflict and notice resistance. Many times, resistance or conflict in human endeavors comes about because we're bumping up against a default that no longer works for us. Pay attention to you. That conflict, that resistance is there for a reason. It's there to raise a little bit of a red flag to say, ooh, we structured this a certain way and it worked, but it's not working anymore, or it's about to stop working. So notice resistance, notice conflict. It's likely about something or about some place in your work or in your life outside of work where there's a default that now has expired and it's time to change or reset that default. Notice that part and pay attention to it. Make notes. You might not remember it, so carry a notebook with you. Make notes. Oh, there's some conflict. The conflict is almost always over how we've structured our defaults around us. Although it doesn't feel that way. It feels like it's a person against a person or a group against a group. Really, most of the time, it's about the structure those groups function within, those defaults. Here's the third thing. Align yourself with other third brainers. Get around, hang around, listen to, read about, have fun with, play with, go out for bourbon with. Enjoy people who are like you, who see those defaults and think, we might need to change that. Now, I'm not talking about a subset of those people who are anarchists and see any rule as just the fact that it exists, or any law, the fact that it exists, it has to be torn down. Those people are counterproductive beyond words. They are utterly selfish. That's not who I'm talking about. You know who I'm talking about, folks who see there's a better way. But that means we not only have to rearrange this, but we also have to rearrange that default. So align yourself with those. If you have 3 or 4 or 5 of those people in your life, your ability to have that third brain, the one who sees rules as tools, will grow really, really quickly. Here's the fourth point. Use leverage. That is, if you've got a bunch of things that you feel like need to be changed, pick the one thing that, in your opinion, and maybe in the opinion of the other third brainers, that you feel like if you did that one thing, it would make other things easier to change or unnecessary to change. That's called a point of leverage in a system like what we're talking about. There are some defaults that need to be changed, some of them that are just annoying and it's not worth the time and energy to change them, and some are really, really, really crying out to be changed. But you can't change them all at once. Pick the one that if you change it would make the biggest difference, and make the biggest difference right away. So with this mindset, underlying it is an assumption that conflict, constraints, and resistance are a gift. They help you see defaults, structures that have been set up, habits, traditions that have been set up that no longer work. Otherwise, they're absolutely invisible to us. So, highly effective leaders like you, they see things that others might not even see yet. Not only do you see what we could be, but you see what might be in our way. Occasionally, it's a rule, it's a system, it's a procedure, it's a habit, what I call a default. So let's not be like those folks that walked into that conference room and saw that garbage can right in their way and thought, well, I guess, or a whole bunch of people who just walked right by it, so in their own heads, so in their own space, thinking about themselves and their shoes, that they never even noticed that there was a default right in front of them that just didn't even work. There you go. There's a thought. If you enjoyed this, if this was helpful for you, hit that thumbs up button. I know it's easy to forget that while you're watching, like, oh, that's interesting, and your mind wanders off. Hit that thumbs up. That tells us that it was worthwhile. Share this. There's a little share button. You can click on it and share the link with somebody. So if there's someone you feel like might benefit from this, spread the word. Subscribe. You know how it works. It's free. Hit the subscribe button and the bell that goes beside it so you can be notified. So, hey, you're doing good work. Keep it up. Don't make it harder than it needs to be. Here's to you.